we're gonna try this. We're gonna see. This lighting is trash. Okay, and I'm also like hunched over. Anyways. All right. I have not made a video in a very long time. And this video is not gonna have anything to do with any of my other videos, but will be the types of videos I'll be making in the future. So, let's see. I have no idea how long this is gonna be. This is like not a vlog, but a recounting of an experience that I'm going through. I also need to update like all of my other videos for like that I've done in the past, and the description bar to say like my stuff in the future won't be as makeup and beauty and skincare related. And if that's the stuff you like, you're not really gonna see it moving forward. So, you know, if that means we need to part ways, dearly beloved, then I guess it's time to tootsie roll on out and part ways. But yeah, so yeah, just a heads up. So I'm sure it's somehow eloquently worded below us in the title area of these videos, like what this is about, what's going on. And I realize in terms of like social media platforms, I'm way more comfortable on YouTube because it's just more of like the total human experience versus like posted up for like, you know, like a little boomerang or a little selfie or, you know, a little outfit shot or whatever. And it's hard for me in the caption to convey what it is that I would like to talk about. So this video might be a little long per usual. So there's a couple of things that go into this video, and I'll try and keep this part short, because if you're clicking on this video, you're either interested in like what's going on with me or like what this experience is. So I don't know if any of this, you know, applies to hearing about that, but yeah. So I am a pretty open person, but I have really been struggling with like Instagram recently because of not feeling like I can really just like sit down and be myself. I'm a YouTube person. I know this hard facts, but in the way that people interact with content, like every platform has like what, you know, makes it special or unique. And one of the reasons I've been struggling is that the people that follow me are comprised of all different types of people and interests, and where they have joined me along my social media journey and the things that I'd like to share. And I don't feel good like when I go on there and post stuff, because I don't really know. I don't know. I just feel like I'm kind of like throwing it out into thousands of people to see like, does anyone care? Does this relate to like, just, I need like 5 people, like raise your hand and be like, yeah, this is applicable. Versus on YouTube, like you can actually search in a more meaningful way versus looking at hashtags. And one of the reasons I was really lost for quite a long time with social media was that I was like straying away from my purpose, that I felt like I was called to just help people, and that wasn't wrapped up in pretty pictures. You know, that wasn't wrapped up in everything on my feed needing to be original content, but like Pinterest and like Instagram are more about the aesthetics, versus like something, or YouTube or a blog can be more like raw and gritty and really getting into that human component. I don't find that to be true on like Instagram or Pinterest in the same way, versus like me just sitting here being like awkward and weird real time versus like some eloquent caption that doesn't make any sense because my English is not the best. So yeah, so I felt like I just strayed from actually wanting to help people. That is really all that I care about. And I'm trying to get back to that and find different ways to do that. And I, over the past, coming up on about a year and a couple of months, have really struggled with my mental health. And I'm like really open about it online and stuff, but I had some pretty significant experiences that went on that I didn't really talk about. And I had like video content for them, and I was just in a really vulnerable place, and it didn't make sense to post them then. But what I'm going through right now with my disordered eating isn't as a emotionally charged situation, and I'm also a lot better now. And so I don't now feels like a good time to talk about like what I'm going through right now in this program. So I have been struggling with disordered eating for years, for a very, very long time. I don't think really at any point in like being alive that I've had a really good relationship with food. And I'm not saying like my parents fed me trash and I had no vegetables and, no home cooked meals and no self-control. I just think like personally in my child brain, like I just struggled to have a good, healthy, positive relationship with food. But there's so many videos to make on this. So a lot of that, I think, for me is tied up in being undiagnosed. And I have, for those of you that don't know me or we're just here right now, that is my real sneeze. I had undiagnosed bipolar disorder most of my life. And it was very severe growing up. And part of that are these like charged, compulsive, obsessive, extreme behaviors. For me, that's shopping and eating is a huge component of it. And so I just remember not having a great relationship with food. And even if I couldn't eat all I wanted to in that moment, like shame around eating in private or feeling like I had to sneak food behind people or like just like not feeling good about it. And we can talk about my childhood experience at some point post a proper therapy session to then like get my ass on here and talk about it. But right before I got diagnosed, it became really, really bad. And I'm trying to separate a little bit of like my mental health journey with like my disordered eating. They are they are interwoven is the English word, but they're not one and the same. And so I'm trying to keep them separate. And so like right now I am going through it's called IOP. It's a program that's 2 hours a day that typically lasts from 3 to 4 months for people that struggle with eating disorders. And I had done an IOP in the past related to when I had a breakdown or psychotic episode, because that's what it was. And then I had done a partial day program leading up to that for my episode last July, so July of 2019. And again, very different emotional, vulnerable state. And I mean, I don't even look at the footage now. I learned a lot from it. And part of why I like YouTube more so than like blogging, I'm a good writer, but I just do better on camera, is that I want to help people. And particularly like within minority spaces in the Black community, like mental health is still very much stigmatized. People don't really seek the type and level and care that they should for the things that are bothering them and the things that are impacting their ability to lead a full, healthy life. And while I probably am not going to pull up any of that footage and like put it on the internet, I'm happy to do another video to talk about like what happened, what led up to my episode, what I got out of those programs, the structure of those programs, just because you don't see a lot of people of color on here talking about those things. And especially with eating disorders, you don't see a lot of people of color, you see women, like Black women. And I just, in wanting to be of service, this isn't really about me. It's about whether or not you follow me, unfollow me, search one of my beauty videos that's like not so hot and stumble upon this, like this will live on past me. It'll live on beyond me. It'll be able to reach spaces and opportunities that I can't physically go to on a daily, monthly, weekly life basis. And someone needs to see this. So this was my first week in the program, and like every night I wanted to come home and make some sort of a video because I could do an hour-long video for each day that I'm there. So I'm just recapping the first week, and I don't know if I'm gonna put comments like available on these or not. So like your reaction to it is through your own lens and your own experience. And again, this is not as emotionally charged as when I was in a different state. For those other programs, like, I don't want to read negative stuff. I don't want to read people's advice or suggestions. Like, if you have my number and you're able to get in contact with me, like, personally, that means you need to have my number. If you can't get to me via a DM, then you don't really need to talk to me. I'm not on Twitter. If you have my email, great, fine. There needs to be some degree of separation, because I think people want to come from a place of helping, or they come from a place of being scared about what they're going through, and people can lash out. And I'm not posting this to get feedback from people. I think if people are interested in this content, you can find out another way to communicate if it starts to be negative. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some Black kid on Google looking for something related to eating disorders, and hopefully I will pop up. And, you know, I'm also applicable in other ways, but like, I just think about, I didn't do any research beforehand. I just like went and had my consultation and signed up, but I also didn't feel like if I looked on the internet, I would have really found anything anyway. So this is just for that future person that is like, what is this actually like? And like, my little chocolate face pops up, that might encourage them to go, or somebody that does overeat, or somebody that does live with a mental illness. Hopefully that will encourage them to see someone similar to them. And be like, all right, I can do this. So yeah. And the other reason I wanted to make this, as you will soon hear about when I talk about the actual, we're like almost 15 minutes in, is that I overeat. And one thing I quickly realized about these programs is that they're designed for people that undereat. So I am going to make this as trauma triggering free as possible, and really just talk about the structure of the program and what I've gotten from it. But the other reason I felt compelled to make this video was because, like I said, when I got there, I was kind of like, all right, this isn't really designed for me. We're going to see how I can make this work, and I'm going to be open to the process, but I'm also going to advocate for myself. And my therapist had made a comment 2 days ago, Friday, today's Sunday, that I was maybe trying to therapy myself, and I might do a different video or whatever, podcast, whatever, what have you, about this. But there's a difference between therapying yourself and feeling like you know what the exact answer is, versus like advocating for yourself, knowing your experience, knowing your history, having some educated guess up here around what could make sense, and being able to have healthy discussion and dialogue around your own journey and what happens to you, not just showing up someplace in a vulnerable state, completely raw and open to the whims of other people. Like, there's a difference, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means in the context of this. So, like I said, I've been struggling with pretty bad disordered eating, probably for about 4 years now, and it was particularly bad right before I got diagnosed. And that wasn't the first thing that was addressed outright. A couple years ago, had weight loss surgery in the process of being diagnosed. And at that point, I was just kind of like grasping for straws on how to make this better. I was coming home and rationally knowing that I should not be eating excessive amounts of food, but it really felt like it was out of my control. And there are other factors that complicate that. Like struggling with depression, struggling with, manic episodes. But even when like I wanted to like put that fork down and not eat that slice of pizza, it just felt like I couldn't. And this is the part where I kind of want to turn off the comments, because if you've never been through something like that, you have no space to comment on just put the fork down. Again, it's something you have to live through to understand why that could really be a struggle for somebody else. But so it was really bad. I had weight loss surgery. That's a whole other video. And I started to on and off struggle again. And I know that my eating was tied to my mood swings for the most part. Like, if I was in a stable mood, wasn't a really big deal. But if I was depressed or manic, I was gravitating to food when I was depressed to dissociate and not be in my body and not feel anything. Or if I was manic, there was a spending money component on food, so ordering takeout all the time. So either way, food from either side. And this is never like the this is never a topic that I addressed on its own, like really up until now. I would do things like different diets and try and work out and restrict myself from eating things, but I would still come home and binge a couple of times a week. And I don't know, now it's just the time where I am in the process of getting so much of my life together that I just kind of realized I don't want to live this way. And part of it is tied to my mood swings, but part of it is also just a commitment to a higher level of self-care and leaning in to hold myself accountable within my own life. And it's not just with my eating, it's across a lot of different metrics. And so food is just one component. And having gone through that other program, I did see the benefits of some structured guidance and support as I was trying to make these life changes. I don't have the best emotional network or support system in my life right now, and that is not a slight at anyone that knows me. I just think that for like what I have going on, I need something a little bit more intense, and that's not weight that other people in my life necessarily need to hold in a way that a professional can just help me. So, and we can talk about that too. As I'm talking, if you want to hear videos on each of these things, let me know. I'll keep the comments open for now. We'll see until someone gets spicy if we have to turn them off. But I just realized that I talked to my therapist, and over the past month, all of my conversations kept going back to food, whether it was just the actual act of eating, whether it was my self-confidence, my body image, feeling like I had control over my life. It all kept going back to food. And so I told my therapist, I was like, hey, this is something I want to explore, but I don't think that I will be able to effectively talk about this topic in its entirety because it's very complicated. It's complicated. In addition to like all the other therapy stuff we have to talk about, because that laundry list is constantly running long. So at first I was like, I'll just get another therapist and I can talk to them once a week about these things. And she was like, no, I think you should look at one of these programs. And she had also recommended that I do the other two programs I was in. And I was hesitant at first because I was not going to take disability for another month and a half and like work through this. It just wasn't going to happen. That's not what I needed. But I also was worried about having to do something after work every day consistently for weeks on end. I just wasn't really sure if I could do it. Like, I'm in grad school right now. I have commitments after work. And just like scratching my tits. And I was just like, I don't know if this is really gonna work out. So I'll go online and look for therapists. And I did, and I started to feel some shame around it. And so I stopped looking, and then we had another therapy appointment, and she was like, all right, your goal for this week is to actually call and get something scheduled. And so I had put it off until like 45 minutes before my therapy appointment, and I called, and they were talking about like a general consultation on the phone to figure out if you should come in for a proper evaluation to figure out if you're a good fit for the group. So there are layers to, at least where I live in Philly, and I go to the Seeds of Hope program. So there are a couple in the area. This one is in the city, and I can't speak for every program ever, but hopefully what I'm going through is a pretty like standard experience. So I'm hoping that that's relatable. So there are layers to the admittance process. It's not just like you show up and they're like, come on in, like they want to make sure that, it's a intense situation. So they're not just gonna, let anyone sign up for that. They want to make sure that you're getting the right type of care. And if like this program is not the right one, they can help guide you to what could make the most sense. So it's not a cash grab by any means. Like there is some thought around what makes sense for you. So I called, and they had a appointment the next day on Friday. And so I was like, all right, I'll just go. I'm going to miss something at work that was really important to me, but I had to realize that I am more important than work on any day, week, month of the year, whatever. I'm always more important than my job. So I ended up going and having a consultation the next day. And so for anyone that hasn't done any of these types of programs, there is a gradual decrease in level of care. So the way the system works, if you think about the ecosystem of options, is that someone, and I might be butchering these terms, but I don't want to say it usually starts out, I've never started at this step that I'm getting ready to talk about and then work my way down. There's just kind of continuation of care and services if you were to like experience everything. So people can start at the top where they're hospitalized just based on different circumstances, and then they graduate from that into a program that's about like 6 to 7 hours a day, and then they graduate into this program that's like 2 hours a day. So that's kind of how you can see where you start from, like, you know, A, B, C, and D, or 1, 2, and 3, or 3, 2, and 1 is best. So it's a gradual decrease. But along the way, like when you're in the hospital, that's a totally different intense level of care versus when you're more along in the process where you have tools and experiences in your toolkit that can help you better integrate back into life. And at any point in the process, you can go back up or down to a different level of care. You're not just committed for one, you know, part of the process at any given point in time. I've been in programs where people were coming out of the hospital. I'm in a program now where it's recommended that somebody actually go to the hospital. So it just depends on what's going on with you. So again, this is not, I know insurance can be a scam sometimes, but like this is just not a cash grab where they're just trying to stick you in like the highest level of care because money. But these programs are expensive. So you will get billed if it's through your insurance for this experience. So I am dealing with that. But anyways, it's important. It's in order for me to function as a human being, like I'm gonna have to just pay the money for this. So so did the consultation. I talked them through like my experience with overeating, the history, certain foods that I gravitate towards, my mood swings, certain habits that I have, how I feel when I'm eating, after I eat, before I eat. So they do, I think it takes like about an hour. You fill out some paperwork, you talk to one of the therapists that are there, and they recommend whether or not you're a good fit. And for the 6 hour a day, the partial day program, and the IOP, the 2 hour program, for both of those experiences, I was able to start kind of like the next day or the next week. It just depended on what day my consultation fell. Usually it's the next like full week. So I started on Tuesday. I was leading a panel on Monday for mental health in the city. And so I started on Tuesday. And the way this program works, so it's about a little bit over 2 hours. Mine runs from 5:15 to 7:30. And it's from Monday to Thursday. And during that experience, because this is for disordered eating, I felt more comfortable saying disordered eating than eating disorder. Because I feel like when I say disordered eating, I have more control of the situation. And maybe that's just me like kidding myself. But eating disorder just feels like this thing that is beyond me, outside of me, and there's no way I can make it better. But if I struggle with disordered eating, it's something that I can like rearrange and get it back together. So maybe that might help someone in terms of their ability to talk about these topics. But so it's 4 days a week, and I work out in the city, but I can also work from home. So like some days I'm in the office, some days I'm not. So that works for me. That was one of my concerns, is that it was going to like screw up me being at work, and that at that point it's a different conversation, but luckily this works out. And so we start the group by having a meal together, and then we have a group therapy session. So that's one of the reasons I like these types of programs, that it's therapy every single day while you're going through like a vulnerable process, and it helps you to feel validated and be seen and talk about things that you're struggling with in a safe environment with a professional. So on Tuesdays in my program, they treat us out for dinner so that we can get experience ordering out and having some coaching around what a good sized meal looks like. And it's free food. So like, hey, but yeah, so that's the typical schedule. And then group is just similar to any group therapy session where the therapist will pick a topic and we'll discuss it. So I'll talk you through like for my first week, what we talked about and some of like what I took away from it. So yeah, that's the structure of the program. And this program is, at least for this organization, and I'm going to extrapolate to say a lot of other typical programs are really designed for people that undereat and struggle with eating enough food throughout the day, versus my situation, I overeat every day, and it's very apparent in their structure. So, and that's totally fine, but this is where like the advocating for yourself and like developing your own voice comes in, because like right away I realized there are a couple of flags, not red flags, like yellow to orange flags around like what my experience was going to be and what I needed to do to get what I needed to get out of this. And any program, regardless of how long it took me to be a part of it and learn what I needed to learn to move on, I am, even in my therapy sessions with my weekly therapist, I always advocate for myself. I'm not going to be up here at the whim of other people. I am committed to getting better by the time I enter one of these programs. And even if every day isn't perfect, like I'm there to put in the work. And if I'm not feeling good, I need to put in the work to understand why. And I will be in that program for as long as I need to be. I wasn't in each program for the same amount of time, but the point is to get what I need to get in order to go back out into the world and help me be a better version of myself. These programs can become comfortable, and the lines get really fuzzy around when you're there for too long, but it's so subjective. But I just want to put that out there. Like it can feel comfortable, but at some point you are shortchanging yourself and not really applying the tools that you're learning to apply them and figure out how they work for you and to tweak them and to get guidance and advice. But everyone's journey is their own, but that's just how I am as a person. And it's really important for me to not to control the situation, but to be like, I'll borrow this from my favorite Peloton instructor. Like this ain't daycare. Like we're in here to put in some goddamn work and get out of this program and just be a better person and be a more fulfilled person. And I can't do that unless I show up every day and I'm in tune with how I'm feeling and I ask for help and I speak up for myself, and I will steal an hour's worth of group therapy session to talk about me. Like I am selfish in these situations. So, I think my experience going into, having said that, so my experience going to the program, I was just kind of thrown in, and I think some of the things from my consultation got lost in translation with the therapist for the program. And so there was just a lot of advocating for me to eat when I was already full, which was frustrating because when I am not eating emotionally, like I'm apathetic towards food. I don't really care about it. I know that sounds a little wonky because I overeat, but when I had weight loss surgery, I lost my appetite. So my hunger cues don't really exist in a lot of ways. Like I know it's time for me to eat if I get dizzy, but outside of that, I just eat because there's some emotional attachment to what's going on. So whether I'm bored, whether I'm having an episode, whether I'm angry, like I've just trained my brain over time to cope with food, but it's never because I'm hungry. I have not been properly hungry in about 3 years. So probably close to like 2 years, 2.5, 3 years. That is what it is. So one of the things that I am vigilant about right now in the program is that things are like an ideal situation. Like right now, I'm not really having a mood swing. Things are pretty stable. I feel myself kind of getting into a little bit of mania right now. But other than that, like, unless I am emotionally charged or mood swinging when we eat at 5:30, I am present in my body and I can feel my stomach when it's full. Not like I'm satiated, I just feel that I'm full. And also having weight loss surgery, I can't eat a lot. So if someone like the therapist is thinking that I'm coming in because I undereat and I'm eating these like small amounts of food, it's within their professional space to ask me to eat more food. So whenever we have a meal together, they have a fully stocked kitchen, and we have a dietitian with every Wednesday, and they have guidelines for each of us around how much food we should be eating. And so the therapist will, when we start the meal, we'll check in and see how we're feeling, and then we'll like talk and listen to music while we eat. And then at the end, she assesses how much food we had, and she'll ask us how we're feeling. And if she feels like we haven't had enough, then she'll ask us to go into the pantry and get more food. And they have all kinds of stuff. I'll be honest, a lot of it isn't the healthiest. I think it's because it's more nutritionally dense stuff, because they want people to bulk up. And if they're only going to take a couple of bites of food, they want them to get as much within those couple of bites as possible. Versus me, I'm just like, I'm actually in my body right now when I'm eating, and no, I don't want to eat more when I'm full. And so the first couple of days, like 2 days, we I pushed back a little bit, and we just had to figure out, like, I told the therapist on the third day, I was like, I will tell you if I have not eaten enough food. I'm not here to shortchange myself, but if my like pouch is full, then I'm happy to have like a nutritional shake or a protein shake or something after I wait a couple of minutes, but I'm not going to put more food inside of me. It's not happening. So I had to like reinforce that messaging with the therapist and the dietitian to say like, asking me to eat when I'm present in my body and working on this and can actually notice when I'm properly full, adding more food on top of that is reinforcing bad behavior, and I'm not willing to go there. But I am willing to, like, during our group session, if we haven't had enough, we can carry some food in there while we talk. Like, I'm happy to grab a shake from the cupboard, bring my own shake, but it's also in the context within the rest of my day. So this is where it gets a little wonky, and it's up to you to be, like, present and honest and thoughtful around like when we're sharing during group meal. I'll usually talk about all the other stuff I've had during the day, because I don't want to give the impression that I just like I've been eating all day. Your girl's been snacking, all right? She's been eating, and so I want to be clear that like this isn't my only meal of the day, and for someone else that's struggling to eat, if it is, like, there's no shame, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to be asked to overeat on top of that. So that's where it's kind of like, if you overeat, these are some things to think about when doing, one of these groups, because, they're trying to encourage people to eat more food. And if you've had weight loss surgery too, so like, I'm just trying to be like, this is my experience with it. So yeah, I mean, that has gotten better, and I can understand the perception of coming in why a therapist can't 100% trust what I'm saying. Like, that sounds terrible, but that's the reality of it. So I think over time it's gotten a lot better. It's been 3 days. Like, by day 3, I felt like this woman is actually listening to me. But for the first couple of days, and like we were checking in there, I was like, I don't feel entirely comfortable, because I've had to say this, same messaging twice. And like, the experience with the dietitian has been interesting, because again, so when they ask us to go into the pantry and get more food, it's based on what they call exchanges. So they kind of like combine Weight Watchers and calorie counting together to create these like units of food called exchanges. So everything in the pantry has a unit of exchange tied to it. So like a yogurt could be 6 exchanges, and gummy bears could be 2 exchanges. And if the therapist asks you to go in and get 1.5 exchanges, you just go and find whatever meets 1.5 exchanges, which is where it's kind of like just encouraging eating overall, not necessarily looking at a balanced diet, if that makes sense, which is why I'm like, this isn't entirely for me. So I did have to go and supplement a couple of times, which was fine. Like, I don't feel bad about that. Like, I'm making better food choices now, and I could stand to probably eat more, especially as I'm trying to work out. So to sit up there and eat, like, drink this much of a protein shake to make this lady happy, fine. But like the first day on Tuesday, we went out to eat, and I got in trouble for getting a salad, and I was upset. I was pissed. So I was like, salad is one of the very few things I actually like to eat that's healthy. Because like when I binge eat, I focus on certain foods, and there's a repetition that is a part of that. So I don't just binge anything. There are certain foods that I go to, and that's common. But like salad is like, that's my girl. I love a good salad, and I got upset. I was like, this, like, again, like, you're eating a bed of rice. I can't have that much, but I can at least get some salad in my stomach, and like I can have more of it than like 2 bites of rice. And the dietitian was telling me, and again, it's for people that undereat, the dietitian was like, if you're gonna have a salad and a grilled cheese, I'd rather you have the grilled cheese because it's more nutritionally dense. And it's kind of like, I just have to be aware of myself and figure out what makes sense for me, because I don't completely agree with that for me and what I need, but I could understand why she's saying that. If someone's struggling to not get enough, the grilled cheese is going to be more filling, it's going to have more calories, it's going to have more fats, stuff that's going to help keep them full, and versus a salad can get unhealthy and get out of hand, but I just feel like the grilled cheese is innately unhealthy. And so from her perspective, and we have rules within the program, which I can talk about in a second, but like, you don't want to food bash and talk down about any foods, which makes sense. But I also feel like this is where I have to put on like my Ansley hat and figure out like what's the best for me. Like I'm gonna keep eating a salad. I'm not gonna start just eating grilled cheeses because like that's not where I'm at. That's not necessarily what I need, but it works well within the program, the way they approach food, their philosophy, and cool. Like I said, I'm here advocating for myself and very open to the process. So like my therapist was like, I don't know if you're completely open or like trying to find ways for it to not work. And it's really not that. It's just like, if I'm going to be in here, like, let's figure out why I'm in here. Let's look at let's take what is provided and take the access that I have to people and tailor it to like what I need so that I can be the best, healthiest eaten version of Ansley or whatever. So, yeah, I'm sure that comes off as resistance, but whatever. I've been making a lot of good changes so far, but I've also been very present in the process. So like the dietitian, we went all over all this stuff, and it was overwhelming. To be honest, when I had my surgery, my taste buds changed, and a lot of healthy stuff I used to like, I no longer liked, and then I just stopped trying to eat that stuff. And then there used to be a lot of stress tied up in meal prepping for me, so I stopped doing that. And so I've just gotten to a point where I just wanted to pay for convenience. And I still feel that way, but there are some healthier ways that I can do that with like having food from like fresh meal delivery services delivered. I've been trying Instacart so I can get access to more food. I live near this like bougie grocery store that doesn't have anything in it, and it just made getting access to like a proper grocery store harder. I don't have a car. Philly is a terrible city to have a car in, and all I could do is like take 2 bags from this like weird grocery store, haul it back to my apartment, and have not the type of stuff that I was open and interested in trying to learn how to eat again. So Instacart's been great. And she gave me all this stuff, and I am definitely keeping it in my back pocket, but it's not like, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not necessarily like, that's not my Bible right now. I realize like what I have to focus on. I talked about this with the dietitian, is like reacquainting myself with being interested in cooking, and spending money is not a problem. But like, if I'm going to spend money on a meal delivery service, I don't want to order, 6 meals for the week and then binge and eat 3 of them in one night and then not have enough food for the week. And that's just a very expensive habit to have. So I am trying to retrain my brain. I know that I am capable of making these changes, and I believe that I can, but I believe it will take some time because I've been doing this, living this way for years. And so right now I'm working on just making sure I eat more consistently throughout the day and try different things. So that doesn't mean like every single thing I have is super healthy, but I'm trying to figure out like what types of flavors and stuff that I like throughout the day. I know I binge a lot on sugar, so right now, like I have these like individual snack pack things, and I'm trying to just get used to having little bits of food throughout the day versus sometimes I skip breakfast because work gets busy, or if I'm home, my eating schedule is different. So trying to become more consistent, like moderation and consistency are my 2 biggest things right now. And then where I'm having like packaged processed food, my next part of my plan is to like substitute that with doing a little bit of food preparation. So I might not be like mixing it up, whipping it up in the kitchen over the stove, cooking a whole bunch of shit, but like I can stuff some lettuce and cucumbers and carrots and some deli meat in a pita and actually interact with my food more versus just buying these like glorified Lunchables that I've been eating, but they've been excellent. And so like it's a process, and the therapist encouraged me last week to think about food and cooking as a creative process, and I am totally spot on with her with that. And so I want to get back to finding cooking interesting, but also doing it in a way that it doesn't take up all my time, because I have a lot of stuff that I do, and I'm learning to reprioritize certain things so that I don't feel the weight of time management as a burden, because that's what it feels like when you have a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, so like that's when I talk about having like advocating for yourself. Like you should always feel empowered at any time to take information and disseminate it, digest it in a way that feels good to you, but also be able to vocalize it back to somebody for discussion and validation and affirmation and debate and discussion, whatever. So it's not like the therapist gave me all this stuff, the dietitian gave me all this stuff, and I just like went off and didn't tell her what I was doing. Like, we had a whole conversation around it. And I told her, I was like, I kind of disagree with some of this, but I'm open. And she also recognized that she didn't realize I had weight loss surgery. So we're going to work together to update some stuff. Having a matcha latte. But right now, the idea of just going to the store and getting a whole bunch of like fresh everything and having to cook it, your girl's not doing it. So also like knowing your limits and like where you're at is really important. That can kind of get in the way though of going through therapy, but I can talk about that separately. Being like knowing yourself but not being open can be a problem. So dietitian, we meet with them every Wednesday. Therapist, we have the group together, but then we also get access to them separately, before and after group. And luckily, it's not terrible. Unfortunately, out of the 3 days, one day, 2 of the women weren't there. And then the other day, one woman got really upset and left, and the other one wasn't there. So it has just meant that I've had more access to the therapist than I would otherwise. As a part of the program, I can request more time and like stay longer and come early and stuff like that, but I've just had to not do either of those things and still get a lot of therapy time. So that part has been really good. So I have been making some really good changes that I'm very proud of, like moderation, trying different things. There have been times when I want to emotionally eat and I haven't. I've been more present, so I've noticed when I'm actually like my pouch is full, and like cautioning myself to keep eating and trying to be more consistent when I'm at home. So I'm making some really great changes, and it's just continuing to reinforce those changes in my brain. So yeah, I do think it's working. I don't think 3 to 4 months is going to be the best use of my time, but I definitely see where coming in for at least a month of reinforcing these good habits will be really beneficial. I can't see into the future and know if I'm going to have a mood swing to say whether or not somebody can help coach me through that, but I'll just have to, through group, put stuff in my toolkit that will help me for when those things do come up. Because I kept telling the therapist, I'm like, you're telling me to eat rice and then eat some more rice on top of that, and then I might go home and still binge. So no. To come home by myself with food is always going to be a problem. And so that's what I'm trying to just kind of remain aware of. Like, if you're struggling to eat, they can force you in some ways. Yeah, they can force you to sit there and eat while you're there at 5 o'clock. But that lady's not following me home to watch me potentially not binge while I'm by myself in my apartment. So just feeling like I have the tools to work through that. And okay, so yes, I'm making some good changes. I feel good about myself, and this is not all going to fit in this video, but this is the part where I start to talk about like the actual group components. I'm not going to talk about like any single person really, but no, not at all. You get out what you put in. That is the baseline for any of these programs. You get out what you put in. What you are willing to put in is what you're going to get. So the first night we talked about should statements and how whenever we say we should do something, it's a form of punishment, and that should statement is usually around something we already know we haven't done. It's like, I should work out. You really only ever say that if you haven't worked out today or haven't worked out in a while. But if you're not feeling empowered at that point in time to do it, it just feeds this cycle of guilt and shame and like not feeling great about yourself because then you don't go and do that thing. So, I'm trying to keep this under an hour. I'm trying to summarize. So that was the first thing we talked about. And my should statements are negative for me at night because nighttime overall, I mean, I also have some throughout the day, but they're particularly harmful at night because I come home and like nighttime's not a great experience for me. It's just the way that I program my brain to think about like all the things I haven't done, all the things I don't like about myself or the world, or I feel like I'm not in control of things or my body, or not having a boyfriend, or one of my cats not loving me enough, or that I didn't go outside today. And I sit there and I like remove myself from my body and I eat, and it's not even like it tastes good. I eat to the point where I'm like sick, and that's what I do. And then I pop back in my body and then I don't feel great because I've just done that. And the cycle feeds itself every night. So I generally have to work on just my nighttime experience. I take like 12 or 15 pills a day, and then I also get physically sick right before I take my pills. I've just trained myself to have a stomachache as like a flight or fight response to taking medication. And then I go to sleep, and ever since I was a kid, I have had a very strong association with sleep and death. And so I also don't like going to sleep. So, and I'm by myself, which I don't like a lot of the time. I don't like people in my space, but I don't like being by myself at night. So there aren't a lot of great things about the nighttime for me. And we talked about this on Thursday / day 3, but it's really about like coming home and, for me, doing things differently. There's a exercise in DBT therapy that you can adopt that talks about just doing stuff differently, because it really is that simple. Underlying this program is just coming home and not eating. And I had an interesting conversation with my sister about it. It's that simple. The actual act of coming home and not binging is just that. You just don't do it. But where there's emotions wrapped up, and there's history, and there's an attachment, and when that humanity exists and is a part of it, that's when it's not that simple. And I think my sister struggled to realize that, because we had a conversation about it. It is painful for her to watch me do something that she has a better grasp on, because it's not as emotionally charged for her. So that was interesting and private, so we won't get into that, but it was a really good way for me to connect with her. So a lot of my should statements come out at night when I'm by myself, and I have been more aware of them and how I can create space to recognize that something hasn't occurred in a day or two or a while, and invite that thought in as quickly as I invite it to just leave and go away and pass. So because when you're able to find a way to let your thoughts just exist and not feel like you have to act on them mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, they don't have control over you. And so my should statements have gotten a lot better. I leave room on the table for things that haven't happened in a while. So like with working out, it's like, I'm noticing that I'm having an interest in working out, and I'm going to explore that. And I might not explore it, or I might, but to say I should do something implies that I'm not taking care of myself, that I'm a failure, and that I am not doing something that other people are clearly capable of doing. And why am I the only one that can't? That's that slightly existential crisis path that we go down with that type of stuff. So that was the first day, the first thing we talked about. The second day was just me and the therapist, because the other 2 women didn't show up, and the dietitian. So she got to learn a lot about me. I got to learn a lot about myself and her in the program. We talked about how I was just kind of like thrown in, and it wasn't a proper introduction into what I was getting into. So like how that was a misstep, and just my willingness to try and to be very proactive in this process. Like I said, we ain't finna stay here for too long. We're not gonna rush anything, but we're not staying here for forever. And that's just not what your girl does. So I at that point felt like so the first night you make like one self-care and one nutrition goal at the end of the program. And so that on that Tuesday, I had committed to at least like touching my Peloton bike, to like putting on at least the proper bra and some sort of like performance panties, pants optional, shoes optional, to get on my bike and to touch it. And I got on there and I worked out for like 3 minutes, and I felt so good about myself, like so freaking good. Because I proved to myself that like I could do it. I struggle with, my therapist also put this thought in my head. She's not wrong. Like whether or not I actually accept having a mental illness is something I still struggle with, because to keep me down in a place of like not being in a good place, it's not eloquent, but I remind myself that like in some ways my life is harder than other people, but I lean into that victimhood and I don't use it as an opportunity to say, in spite of this, I want to be whole and I want to live my best life. And yeah, that means taking those 15 pills, girl. You can't get past that, like that means that you're going to have to lean in more into your life than other people do. And I struggle with that because life is not fair. And that's just something that I struggle with in a very real way. And that commitment to a higher level of self-care, like when I'm binging, I don't take responsibility for myself, but to actually sit there and be like, no, you're upset and you want to go order that pizza and you're not going to do it. It's kind of like, guess what, bitch? You have to care a little bit more. You absolutely have to care a little bit more about yourself, to deal with that. When I'm like having really bad mood swings or I'm like super anxious or whatever, to not do that thing hurts physically. That anger, that anxiety presents itself in a very real physical way. It manifests itself in my body. And I was telling my sister, when you're in that state and every little thing you do is charged, you just want to start giving into stuff because it takes part of that pain away. And it's a destructive habit because it doesn't benefit me any. It's like I'm picking the lesser of two evils, but they're both evil. And so it's just easier to buy that thing or eat that food, and to fight with myself that I'm not going to do that sucks. And it also means that I have to care more about myself and lean into a higher level of self-care. But in living this way for so long, I've never really been like a fully healthy person. So that's very scary. I know what it's like to be depressed and manic and like all out of control, and that's dependable. I can count on that girl. I know what she's gonna do. I didn't say she was living her best life, but I know what life she's gonna have. But to constantly have to get up every day and like not bullshit myself, I don't know what that person looks like, and I want to be her so badly, but I am very good at sabotaging, yes, myself. And so I revert back to old habits, and I don't want to do that anymore. Not every day is going to be perfect, but I don't want to self-destruct on purpose because I have to take better care of myself. And that's also something I fundamentally struggle with, this like fear of success, not a fear of failure. I can lean into failure, but a fear of success and a fear of actually being that weight or working out or getting that boyfriend, and these are like material things, I'm being honest, because that feels like I have to have more responsibility over my life. And for being undiagnosed for so long and having to keep myself company for so long in an unhealthy state, I'm at that point where I'm tired. I'm 27 and I'm tired, and I'm trying to live a different life, and I have to get out of being tired, and I have to find a different source of energy because that person's depleted, and I am still trying to attach myself to that depleted thing. And every day I'm getting a little bit better. Not every day is the slam dunk 100% perfect, but every day I'm finding a new way to say like, and it's like the same thing at my job. Like we don't know what's going on every day in some ways. In some ways you do, in a lot of ways you don't. But like it's ambiguous. Like you don't know what's out there. Like I don't know what, this Ansley is gonna look like, but I have to commit to the fact and make it a fact in my mind that I know that it's worth it. Whatever it is a hell of a lot better than this, even if I don't know what it is yet. So after I got on the Peloton and like spun for 3 whole minutes, I was feeling like that bitch, like that girl. Like I was not gonna ruin that with like eating a whole bunch of food because I had been eating all day and trying to make a change, and I just feel so much better. And it can sound a little silly, and I'm not trying to like fake myself into thinking that things are better, but when you struggle with seeing something other than what is right in front of you or what has presented itself in the past, any small victory opens the door for there to be more victory. And I'm just very open into accepting the fact that there can be more things. I decorated. If you've seen any of my other vlogs, my therapist encouraged me to have something other than like a gray color scheme in my apartment. So there's some artwork. And even like that, I just like got off my butt and did it. And I've been wanting to do it for months, and I finally did it, and I like my apartment so much better. So it's just, that one, it's like small things that encourage you to do even, more small things, and then medium-sized things, and then big things. And it's even got me thinking again about my business and what I really want for myself in life, and like, is really the right place, and how am I helping people, which is, I've been wanting to make videos for a while, but I just didn't know, like, I was struggling with so many other things. I strayed away from what I feel like is my purpose. And, I'm trying to get back to that with this, like, be out here on the internet. So I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling a lot better, and, I could wake up and have a swing and feel like crap, and I'll deal with it. But so far, I have hope. I have a lot of hope. My boobs are itchy. I have a lot of hope right now that I didn't necessarily have in the past. And you're not always going to be willing to put in the work on yourself. And right now I'm just willing, and I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to really try and to take advantage of it. So we talked about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I realized a couple of things. So I think it's important for me to like have things to pick at when I eat. So I like the idea of like little cutesy grab things. So right now I've been doing these like packaged snack packs. And so one of my goals moving forward is to like start to put that together myself. But like right now I've been doing and I can do a video around some of the foods that I'm currently eating. I might turn the comments off because it's not a balanced diet per se. I mean, I'm not out here just eating Cheetos at every meal, but you have to work up in phases and stages to get to where you want to be. So yeah, I like stuff that I can pick at. I also realize when I binge, I don't really touch my food. I'm like not connected with it, but in the process of having like my Lunchables and stuff, I'm like picking out of a bag and putting in my mouth. Like everything is a portion snack pack too, which is great. Like I'm connecting with my food. And one of the things I've been trying to connect with more is my inner child anyways. And so I think about like as a kid, like we touch our food. You don't really give, your little homie, your little human cutlery to eat their food. That's just not what we do with kids. So I've been trying to connect more with actually touching my food. And that's been really helpful for me to be more present. And then, so on Thursday we had someone not show up, and then someone walked out early, very upset, which was unfortunate to have to watch them experience what their experience, but also like sit with their emotions and their energy. I tend to feel things deeply, and I feel like I connect with other people's emotions because I tend to be in an emotionally charged state, learning how to be more balanced. But I do feel like in that ways I'm slightly empathy. It's not a word, but kind of heading down that vein. So she ended up leaving about 30 minutes early, and it gave me 30 minutes just to talk to the therapist. But that night we were talking about this DBT method, which is like doing the opposite thing. Oh my God, my boobs. Doing the opposite thing. And like it's as literal as you're in the house, get your ass out of the house. Like if you're lying in bed, get your butt out of bed. It's like literally doing the opposite action. And so in some ways it's a little on the nose and a little ridiculous, but DBT in and of itself is kind of an extreme solution to things. It's very effective, but it's like very like hot and cold. It doesn't really take into account any of this like jazzy, wavy medium of things that you could do in between. It's very like hot or cold. It's interesting. It can be effective. I've done some other things within DBT that my therapist has recommended that are very effective, but it's just like that. There's nothing in between the snap. Is how I think about it. So we talked I was like, with some creative licensing, like, yes, this makes sense. So if I am binging, it's just like, don't binge. It's that simple. It's so annoying that it's that simple. But it doesn't, DBT is not necessarily in all circumstances, really in any trying to take into that like human component that we talked about, that humanity component. DBT does not give a shit about that. So yeah, it's like if you're binging, don't binge. It's that literal. But there are other instances too where, like I told the therapist, if I'm in the house all day, the opposite is to get out of the house. But what might actually be the opposite in terms of my mood or my emotions is to like pick up all the stuff off of the floor, because then I'll feel happy about that. So it doesn't have to be the exact literal opposite action. On the first day when we talked about the should statements, instead of saying I should do this, you should think about the benefits of things. So not like I should work out, but if I were to work out, that would help with my mood, it would help me go to sleep. And so you take the shame and guilt and sense of failure out of it, and you think about all the good things that will be of benefit to you if you do it. And so I can think of the benefits of going outside, but actually picking, 13 pairs of jeans off the floor might be more important, because then my space will be clean. But it's not the exact opposite action, which is why creative licensing sometimes is needed with DBT, or this particular activity. So we had a good session around that, but underlying anything in life and particularly therapy is your willingness to try. And the woman in the group struggled with that. It just didn't understand that was where she was still struggling with, just her willingness to try. And I told the therapist I struggled in that moment, because it's hard when somebody can't see what you can see. Not in like a, haha, I'm above it and I can see it, but, I can relate to that experience, but I can also relate to my own strength of realizing like, you are just blatantly not willing to try right now. And you need to own your shit and sit in it, figure it out, whatever, but own it. And she wasn't in a place to own it, but, at what point do you own it? It's such a subjective experience. And it's really easy to cling to not being well. It gets comfortable quick. And so I just talked to the therapist about that, because in some ways I'm really good about taking care of myself. In other ways, I'm not. It's programs like this and therapy. So yeah, it was unfortunate in that she left, but that I could also talk to the therapist for like 30 minutes on my own. And I left Thursday like feeling pretty good. Friday I did really good by myself, and just also having variety of different tastes and flavors and just different options is available to me is really important. So I have been using Instacart. I used it to go to Aldi's, which I'd never been to. It's like 10 minutes up the street, but I don't have a car. So I ordered a whole bunch of things. Like I said, I'll do like a food video too, if that will be of interest to people. I'm hoping over time, as things go well, that any person that decides to watch this and like be a part of this journey can see gradual changes. Like I'll show you I have a treasure chest of chips. They're protein chips that I was sent by this thing I'm an ambassador for, but like I have different tubs of different snacks, and like my tea collection, and doing the matcha, and I gave up coffee like 2 months ago at this point, and I have ice cream in my fridge, and like showing you guys the types of things that I eat. So even if you're not going through an eating disorder program, if you're struggling with moderation or just changing your eating habits, this could also be a benefit to you. And like to go from one day from like binging pizzas to having nothing but like fresh produce and meats and things that you have to then whip up in the kitchen and cook by hand and then plate for your Instagram photos is not real life. So we're gonna get some real life out of this. But yeah, so I have been trying to get access to more foods and like build up my pantry, and just try out different things. Like right now I'm in an exploratory phase because my eating habits really changed over the past couple of years, and I just kind of boxed myself into this very small list of things that I like to eat. So I'm trying to expand that again and really just like get to know this healthy version of myself. What does she like to do? What is she interested in? What does she like to eat? And so with that, I have to try stuff and see if I like it or not. But yeah, I still have not been to an Aldi's, but I've never shopped at one, so I did that. I kind of want to order something from Wegmans today through Instacart, but we'll see. There's an item on there that I know if I order it, I'm going to overeat, and I want to not do that today. And I'm not feeling too much stress around it, but I also wanted to eat it yesterday too. But just certain things and like the way that certain foods are packaged it's hard for me to portion control them, to like have that level of discipline, and I have no problem admitting that. Like anything that isn't already prepackaged in a serving size, I will blow through it. And so this is something that isn't prepackaged in a serving size, so just like maybe I won't put it in that order. But I also think for right now, as I learn my new habits, like not going to the grocery store is great because I can just Instacart and not have to worry about any of that temptation. So yeah, so let's see, Friday was good. And because I'm like not mood swingy right now, I recognize when I come home at night, or like once nighttime happens, I'm like, where's the food? I need the food. And so I'm very aware that I've trained my brain to be like, it's food time. The sun's not out. It's not sun's out, guns out. Like that's not what we're doing over here. We're doing the exact opposite. So I'm very aware of it, and like the emotional component that goes with that. And it's interesting. So yesterday was Saturday, and I forwent for whatever. I didn't do some social things yesterday, and I just like stayed home and I cleaned up and I felt so good about myself. And I was a little snacky at night, but I didn't binge anything. Binging and overeating aren't the same thing necessarily. Overeating, yeah, I mean, they're not the same thing. So I did overeat just a little bit and kind of graze a little too much throughout the day, but some of my ongoing goals are to get away from this like exchange system they have that doesn't benefit me, but to actually look at the nutritional composition of the things that I'm eating. Like for example, they want me to have nutrition shakes, and I push back to say like those bitches, those things are loaded with sugar, and I will give you a protein shake because those are better for you, but I'm not going to give you a nutritional shake. And so the dietitian got a little upset, but whatever. So just knowing that like convenient things are really important to me. So the difference in me having a protein shake right now is whether or not I have to make it or it's prepackaged. That's where I'm at. You know, part of being successful in life in general is knowing yourself, and I just know that about me. In the past, I had made my own protein shakes. In the past, I had bought them, and right now, I am still in a mode of convenience until certain other things in life are figured out. I need to make this as convenient as possible, because if I do, then I'm more likely to do it. So, yeah, I cleaned up. I'm doing this, which is really, you know, I have this business and I still don't know what I'm going to do with it. And I don't think I'm in the best space to really try and, you know, jump back in. But it's like little things like this where at the heart of my business and me wanting to do all of the things I did this past year, it's been about a year since I started the business, is wanting to help people. And I feel like this video will help people. So I'm getting back to the mission of this whole experience, whether or not it's like how I used to do it in the past, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, so I'm checking that box of being of help and value to other people, hopefully. And today I need to write a paper for school, which instead of waiting to 7 o'clock at night, I'm going to do it earlier. And it's only 2 o'clock. Oh, time is weird. So I have a lot of time to do it, and I'm going to put my clothes away and do some skincare stuff. And yeah, the other thing I have to figure out is my sleep schedule again, and not ODing on self-care stuff, and actually thinking about a proper schedule that I can maintain that touches on the things that I like to do. Like I've been itching to do some meditation recently, and I don't know if it's because I feel like the universe and Medium think pieces and Facebook have told me too many times that I should be doing it, or if it's something I actually want to do. So I'm getting a little bit of anxiety around not doing it, so I need to explore it, as well as just like reading my Bible more. Haven't been doing that. But I also can't, I was like waking up 5-6 hours before work and cramming in 20 different self-care activities, and like, that's just not sustainable. So this will hopefully help me get to a point where I can try different things. Coincidentally, at work, we do a lot of experimentation. That's like our whole thing with like the program department or whatever that I'm in. So I'm just experimenting with different things, and yeah, I mean, I'm in a good place. Like I said, I can feel a bit of a swing coming on, but I also feel like I'm more empowered to be more in control of like what comes next. So yeah, so this is the video. This is the thing. Like, video is just so much easier than a freaking Instagram post or a blog post because I can just talk. I do better when I talk. But yeah, I mean, I hope this was helpful. This is going up the same day. Yeah, this will go up the same day. And I don't know if I'll come home every day and make a video. I don't know. In the moment, it's helpful to just sit and like turn on the camera. But in doing that, there's a different level of reflection that comes. One of my cats is out. There's a different level of reflection that comes if you like wait a little bit and talk about everything and can like extrapolate to like a larger picture. So I'm not sure. We'll see what happens next week. But I will commit to at least one video a week around what's going on with that. And yeah, I should be in, Tuesday I'm not going to be at the program. I have a thing at work I can't miss. And it's okay. Like, you don't want to miss too many days when you're in the program, but it's okay if you can't go every single time. They don't really, no, I shouldn't say that. It's okay if you don't go every single day, but you're not benefiting yourself and getting the most out of the program if you don't. And I'm here to get the most out of the program. So yeah, I'm also going to make some food. I need to eat. It's been it's like 2 hours since I've eaten. And the other thing I have to watch when I'm home is my water intake. Definitely feel that I am dehydrated and it sucks. So I need to drink some water. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If anything that I said at any point in this video is something you would like to hear, more about, I am happy to talk about it. I don't remember all the things I said I would make a video on, and I don't think I'm going to rewatch this, but I will try and remember and make, some videos on specific topics because I just want to help people. And the best thing I can do right now without creating any extra work for myself really is just turn on the camera and talk. In order to be successful, I've realized with myself, as much as I have a desire to create and be creative, like I have to think about what time I have, what's going to best benefit me. And right now, just like turning on the camera, not selling you anything, not promoting anything, not writing anything, taking no pictures outside of the thumbnail, is like what I can do. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I don't want to say I hope you enjoyed it. It's not for your entertainment, but yeah, I hope this was helpful, and we are going to figure this out together. So I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.